Now, another staple in a Photoshop designer's toolkit is the use of layer masks. They give you the ability to hide and reveal parts of a layer without actually deleting them. This is a very efficient, non-destructive way of working, and it has really helped designers become more efficient and more creative, because you can make little bold measures and bold steps, so you're not worrying about erasing or losing any data. So I'm actually going to build a quick movie poster just kind of so you can see layer masks in the context of a design and see how they really help you blend things efficiently and a lot more forgiving, in that you don't have to make decisions right away. You can actually change things later on. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this background image here. I've got the file already set up. Background's white, so I'm going to go ahead and make it black by simply pressing Command or Control I, and that inverts the white to black. We'll begin with the background image. We're going to have this cityscape in the background of our movie poster. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this and drag and drop it over to the working file. And it's a little large, so we're going to scale it. So I'm going to press Command or Control T to put it in free transform, and then press Command or Control 0. And that expands the document out so you can see the edge of the transform handles. I'm just going to scale this down until it's slightly outside the edges of the document, and then drag it down here to the bottom. So now what I want to do is actually blend the top and bottom of this image with my background, so it has a nice fade to the black. So I'm going to do that through use of a layer mask. Now on this layer, you'll notice here's the icon. It's not showing the preview, but it's there. You obviously wouldn't be able to see it. You can see the layers turning on and off there. But what I'm going to do is add my layer mask. Now go down here to the bottom of the layers panel, and the third icon over is this little square with a circle in it. Click on that once, and it adds another thumbnail attachment to the layer. And you'll notice it's filled with white. Now, an easy way to remember how layer masks work is that white reveals, black conceals, and then all the gray tones will show some transparency in them. So what does that mean? Well, if I go and let's just take a quick brush tool, for instance, and let's make sure we're using a regular brush. No additional features are turned on. So I'm painting with black. I've got black set as my foreground color, and notice I'm on the layer mask itself. This is another critical thing. Here in the layers panel, you'll see that there's these lines around the icon for the layer mask. If I click on the layer itself, they change over. So this is the difference between working directly on the layer and then working on the layer mask itself. We want to work on the layer mask. So when I paint on the image here, you'll notice if I turn the background layer off, it looks like it's erased part of that layer. But I'm actually painting on the layer mask itself, and where it's black is going to hide that image. Now, if I were to paint with gray, for instance, you'll notice that it's only partially deleting it. Let me actually get it to a more lighter gray. You'll notice it's only partially deleting those pixels. So the lighter the color gets all the way to white, the more of the layer it's going to reveal. The darker it gets all the way to black, it's going to take away even more. So let's go back and refill our layer mask with white. Now, as I mentioned, we want to fade this image to the background. So I'm going to actually use the gradient tool in this case. Now, when you're using the gradient tool on a layer mask, here is an important point to remember. I'm going to use a simple black to white gradient. And I'm just going to start at the top here. And if you add the Shift key, it'll constrain your movement up and down, left or right, whichever direction you're going. So I'm going to Shift click, drag down, and it gives me a nice fade of the sky. That's great. That's exactly what I wanted. But now I want to fade the bottom as well. So if I hold the Shift key down and drag up from the bottom, oh no, it overwrites the previous gradient because it's going from black to white. So what I need is to be able to apply multiple gradients to a single layer mask. So you'll need to go up here and change the gradient type from black to white to foreground to transparent, which is the second icon here. Now, if I come in here from the top, just like I did a moment ago, it gives me that fade. But if I come in from the bottom, it also will add that fade as well, because we're applying multiple gradients to the single layer mask. And I actually use this foreground to transparent gradient every time I use layer mask and I'm using the gradient tool. Even if I'm not using multiple gradients, it's just become habit just in the event I want to do multiple ones. But now you can see I've got the skyline nicely faded to the background. So now let's go ahead and grab our subject images. I'm going to take this shot of this woman here, go ahead and drag and drop it over and position it roughly where I want it to be. I don't need to be exact in the positioning because I'm going to double check that later on. Let's go ahead and grab the other subject we're going to use for this poster and position him right over here. Position her a little bit further down. So now I'm going to turn that layer off of him and then go and concentrate on her for the moment. Just like I did before, I'm going to add a layer mask on here. And using that same gradient, foreground to transparent, I'm just going to come in from each side, shift, drag up. And you don't have to hold the shift key. I'm just doing it to keep my constraints. But if you just drag in from each side, you'll get a nice fade on the subject. And there we go. So we're getting that kind of floating head effect that's so common in so many movie posters these days. And we'll do the same thing with the next subject here. Go over here and we'll grab that gradient tool once again, coming in from the side. So you can see how you can use this to seamlessly blend images and yet still have control over it. If I've done a layer mask on this, like say I did the mask on this guy, for instance, I'm not happy with it, I just don't want to edit it, I can just take that layer mask and drag it to the trash and throw it away. There you see it. Now I can go and apply it again. Just undo that. If you want to work on the mask directly in your main window, you can hold down the Option key on Mac, Alt on Windows, click directly on the mask, and there you can see the mask itself has appeared. It allows you to edit it. So I painted some black in here, and then Option clicked again. You can see it's masked out that area. So I can get a little bit more precise on editing the mask if I so desire. And you can also temporarily disable a layer mask by holding down the Shift key and clicking directly on the layer mask icon there. All right, so we've got our subject in place. I've actually got my text already set, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that on so I can help determine where I want to place my subjects here. And it looks like there might be a little bit big, so I'm actually going to scale her down a little bit. I think I'm going to scale him down just a little bit more. There we go. Maybe select on that layer mask, get a little bit of more of a fade up top here, so there's not that sharp angle there. It looks pretty good. So now there's one more element I want to add here, and that is an actual graphic of a moon. So I'm going to actually extract this by using my solid background technique. I'm just going to take the magic wand tool, click on the background, go under Select, Inverse, and I'm going to go ahead and press Command or Control J. It pops that up on its own layer. I'm not liking the color of the moon, so I'm actually going to just press Shift Command U and go ahead and take all that color out. And then let's go ahead and take it and bring it on over. And we'll just scale it and position it pretty much right behind the C here in the background there. Make sure it's behind that text. Now, I don't want it to be a full moon because it's kind of getting in the way of the text here. So let's actually make it more of a crescent moon with the use of a layer mask. So I'm going to go ahead and add a layer mask here. And let's go ahead and just make a circle selection and position it right about there. Right about there, so it's going to cover this or reveal the C and the letters more and create more of a crescent moon effect. So I'll just go ahead and fill that selection with black. Just press Shift Delete and just go ahead and choose black, normal, 100%. There it goes, it masks it out. Now, the problem here is that it has got too sharp of an edge on the edge of the moon there. It needs to be a little softer. Now, you can actually run filters on a layer mask just like you would an image. So on that layer mask, I'm just going to go in under the filter menu, go to blur and choose Gaussian blur. And you can notice if I increase or decrease the amount, the blur is only affecting the mask and not the moon graphic itself. So I'm actually going to bring that blur down to right about here. Click OK. And if you don't like necessarily where the positioning of that layer mask is, there's a little chain link in between the layer and the layer mask. If you simply click on that and unlock the layer mask to the layer, you can move it around independently. Notice I'm moving now the mask around, or I can move the moon around itself. So you can separate these items just by clicking on that chain link icon and separating them and getting better positioning ultimately for the rest of the image. And there we have our movie poster done seamlessly for the most part using layer mask. You'll notice the nice blending we get between all these subjects, and you'll notice we didn't do anything to the original files. Each image we imported in here is still intact as it was when we brought it in. We've simply used layer masks to hide and reveal various parts of those images, only the areas we need to see as part of the design. And this is just a small part of what the power of layer masks and what they can do here inside Photoshop. But just remember that little saying, black conceals, white reveals. Or the other way around. It really kind of goes both ways. But just remember that white lets you see it, black hides it, and then the gray areas will have some transparency to it when it comes to working with layer masks.